review of Nigeria Government Public Payments Portal has shown that the Nigerian Federal Ministry of Justice under the Attorney General of the Federation has spent 403 million naira on renovating toilets in one day. On June 27, 2024, the sum of 158 million naira was paid for the renovation of toilets in the Federal Ministry of Justice headquarters. On same June 27, 2024, the sum of 245 million naira was paid to Optional Concepts Limited for renovation of toilets. In all, renovating toilets took 403 million naira in one day. The staggering sum of 403 million naira expended on toilet renovations could have been used to renovate 66 blocks of 3 classrooms each at a cost of 7 million per block, as evidenced by Nigerian government records on the public payments portal. Alternatively, this substantial allocation could have facilitated the construction of 51 solar-powered boreholes, considering each borehole requires an investment of 8 million naira. Days ago, Sahara reporters reported that President Bola Tinubu-led presidency under the State House spent the sum of 10 billion naira on motor vehicles between March and May 2024. The review shows that in March 2024, the sum of 2 billion naira was recorded as used to purchase motor vehicles. In May, another sum of 8 billion naira was spent to buy motor vehicles by the State House, totaling 10 billion naira in the 3-month period. Sahara reporters also earlier revealed how the Tinubu-led presidency spent 366 million naira on tires in 3 days, among other seemingly frivolous expenses. It was found that 366 million naira was spent on tires in 3 days, and the payments were made on May 21st, 2024, June 22nd, 2023, and June 24th, 2023. Before now, Sahara reporters reported how the Tinubu-led administration spent billions on purchasing foreign exchange for travels and rehabilitation of presidential buildings. Also, the presidency was noted as spending 2 billion naira for foreign exchange on July 17, 2024. This has added to the high level of scrutiny of the current administration fiscal discipline. The development comes at a time when there are concerns on prudence of the government in managing its scarce resources. It also comes amid plea for debt relief by the Nigerian government, signaling a dire need for more revenue and better management of resources by it. Nigeria's debt stands at 121 trillion naira as of the first quarter of 2024, while it continues to grapple with poor economic made harder by inflation. Experts have warned that there may be dire consequences if the government does not regulate how it spends the nation's scarce resources. Nigeria suffers from myriad of challenges, from access to healthcare, water, roads, electricity, and other basic needs, which stakeholders opine that the government can exert its efforts on instead. The revelation that the Nigerian Federal Ministry of Justice spent a staggering 403 million naira in one day on toilet renovations has sparked widespread shock and criticism. This expenditure, especially in a nation grappling with severe economic hardship, raises critical questions about government spending, priorities, and the broader implications for fiscal responsibility. The breakdown of this amount highlights 2 specific payments made on June 27, 2024. 158 million naira for renovating toilets in the Ministry of Justice headquarters. 245 million naira paid to a company, Optional Concepts Limited, also for toilet renovations. In total, these toilet renovations cost 403 million naira in just one day. To understand the gravity of this, we must ask, how does this massive sum compare to the pressing needs of the Nigerian people? What does this say about the government's priorities? And why is there such a disconnect between the government's spending and the basic necessities of its citizens? Nigeria could have built 66 blocks of 3 classrooms each at a cost of 7 million naira per block. Imagine what this could do for a country where many children still study under trees, or in overcrowded and underfunded schools. With Nigeria facing a critical educational crisis, where millions of children lack access to quality learning environments, this kind of spending on classrooms could transform communities. Each classroom block would not only provide a safe and conducive environment for learning, but would also help reduce the number of out-of-school children in the country. Alternatively, the same sum could have funded 51 solar-powered boreholes, each costing 8 million naira. Nigeria suffers from a chronic shortage of clean and accessible water, with many rural and urban communities still lacking reliable water sources. Providing boreholes would address one of the country's fundamental needs. Clean water is essential not only for drinking, but for sanitation and health care. If properly managed, these funds could have provided a lasting solution to water scarcity in dozens of communities, improving the health and well-being of thousands of Nigerians. Unfortunately, this lavish expenditure on toilet renovations is not an isolated case. The Nigerian government has recently come under intense scrutiny for a series of extravagant and seemingly unnecessary expenses. The State House, for example, spent 10 billion naira on motor vehicles between March and May 2024. In March 2024, 2 billion naira was spent on vehicles. In May 2024, another 8 billion naira was spent, bringing the total expenditure on vehicles in a 3-month period to 10 billion naira. This enormous amount raises serious concerns about the government's priorities. In a country where many citizens cannot afford basic transportation, where public transport is dilapidated, and where infrastructure is crumbling, how can such exorbitant sums be justified for motor vehicles? Moreover, the State House was also found to have spent 366 million naira on tires over just 3 days. These payments were made on May 21st, 2024, June 22nd, 2023, and June 24th, 2023. The figure seems absurdly high, especially when compared to what the average Nigerian faces in terms of daily struggles, such as access to clean water, reliable electricity, and healthcare. In another questionable instance, on July 17, 2024, the Nigerian government spent 2 billion naira on foreign exchange for travel and the renovation of presidential buildings. This is yet another example of what many see as fiscal irresponsibility. At a time when the government is pleading for debt relief and grappling with an overwhelming debt of 121 trillion naira, spending such large sums on travel and building renovations seems wildly inappropriate. Nigeria's economic situation is already precarious. With a national debt of 121 trillion naira and inflation skyrocketing, the average Nigerian is struggling to make ends meet. Prices for basic goods have soared, wages have stagnated, and unemployment remains high. In this context, the government's excessive spending on toilets, cars, tires, and foreign exchange seems both reckless and disconnected from reality. Experts have warned that if the government continues down this path of extravagant spending, there could be dire consequences for the nation. As Nigeria struggles to manage its debt, every naira should be used wisely, with a clear focus on projects that improve the lives of ordinary citizens. Instead, the government is spending billions on luxuries that serve only a small elite. This brings us to a central question. What are the government's priorities? From a critical standpoint, it is difficult to justify spending 403 million naira on toilet renovations when basic services such as education, healthcare, and water supply are so underfunded. The government is spending on non-essential items while basic infrastructure continues to decay. While it's understandable that government buildings need to be maintained, the scale of the spending is hard to justify. 403 million naira on toilets is an eye-watering amount, especially when compared to the 7 million naira needed to build a classroom or the 8 million naira needed for a solar-powered borehole? Who approved this expenditure? Was there a competitive bidding process? How were the contracts awarded? And why does it cost so much to renovate toilets? The lack of transparency raises red flags and deepens public mistrust in the government. With the country's economic situation worsening, the public is increasingly disillusioned with the government's spending habits. Citizens are struggling with inflation, unemployment, and a lack of basic services, while the government spends millions on what seem like luxuries. The spending reflects a government that seems disconnected from the struggles of its people. While Nigerians are pleading for improvements in schools, hospitals, roads, and clean water, the government is focused on luxury renovations and expensive cars. This disconnection between the people and the government is troubling and could have long-term consequences for political stability. If this pattern continues, Nigeria could face severe consequences. The government's current spending habits are unsustainable, especially given the country's mounting debt. With 121 trillion naira in national debt, the country cannot afford to waste resources on frivolous expenditures. As Nigeria continues to seek debt relief and financial assistance from international organizations, its lavish spending on toilets, cars, and foreign exchange could undermine its credibility. Why would creditors offer relief to a government that spends so recklessly? As the public grows more aware of these expenditures, there could be growing discontent and unrest. Nigerians are already frustrated with the lack of basic services, and the revelation of these extravagant expenditures may only fuel further anger. At this point, the Nigerian people deserve to have a voice in how their money is being spent. Should the government be spending 403 million naira on toilet renovations when schools are crumbling and communities lack clean water? What should the government's priorities be? And how can citizens hold their leaders accountable? We want to hear from you. Do you believe the government is spending the country's money wisely? How would you allocate 403 million naira if given the chance? Share your thoughts in the comments below and join the discussion. By opening the conversation to the public, we can foster a dialogue on fiscal responsibility and ensure that government spending is more aligned with the needs of the people. Let's make sure our voices are heard so that we can create a better, more equitable future for all Nigerians. Your comments and opinions will help shape this ongoing discussion. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day.